Okay, well, I think we'll just start anyway. There's quite a few things. I wanted to go through the syllabus because it's changed recently.
Recently.
Yeah, in the past, the last update was 2013. So it hasn't updated this year, so you've got the new syllabus, but because I do the exam every single year, it's kind of
Oh,
changed for me.
oh yeah.
I don't think there's a huge difference between the two, but I think the best thing to look at, I just did a bit of research, is this. So this is the online um, registration assessment syllabus. So
Yeah.
this is from the horse's mouth.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember we went through when you get results from the GPhC, it's
Yeah.
interesting that it kind of breaks it down into these three sections. And
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
it's good to know what these sections are so you're kind of prepared. Um,
Okay.
Talks about, them removing the MEP but from the exam, but it's still actually part of the exam. And I think that's really in section one, in that part there. Clinical
Mm-hmm.
practice, pharmaceutical aspects. I don't know what this is, so I kind of want to have a look. How do we get?
I think if you press the
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go. So clinical practice, evidence-based practice. You must be able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the principles of obtaining, applying evidence to inform. Okay, that's just science, basically. Action and use of drugs. You must be able to demonstrate the knowledge. Mechanism of action, administration, absorption. So ADME, so it's pharmacokinetics, but that
Mm-hmm.
very rarely comes up anyway. The
Mm-hmm.
principle of these medicines, duration of drug treatment, correct dosages, dose adjustments. A lot of that's all in the BNF.
Mm-hmm.
Non-prescription remedies. You must demonstrate the knowledge of the action license. Use medicinal products available without prescription that are commonly used to treat minor ailments. So we went through, hydrocortisone, P medicines, OTC, and
Mm-hmm.
GSL. Do you know the difference between GSL, P, and POMS?
GSLP and POMS.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's the difference between, like, the legal difference between GSL and a P medicine? It's nothing that you need to know very much in specific. Um, I was interested in what this means, pharmaceutical aspects of practice,
mhm.
um, because not the last exam, but the exam before, there were some questions about laminar flow and aseptic techniques.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
But
It was rooms A, B, C,
yeah,
um,
so it'd be,
and which is like the
you'd
cleanest.
think it'd be in here, but really what pharmaceutical aspects means is calculations, dilutions, somewhat formulation preparation. GDP.
Mm.
Do you guys know about GDP?
For dispensing practice.
Hmm. We kind
Mm-hmm.
of went through this a little bit. It's mainly to
Yeah.
do with calculations. Was there
Yeah.
anything in specific you wanted to talk about, man?
Yeah, can just above the pharmaceutical aspects of practice,
Yeah.
um, there's a thing called is it on part one of clinical and pharmaceutical practice? So if you click on clinical and pharmaceutical practice, where is
Is
it?
that's here, isn't it?
No, that's the next section, isn't it? Yeah, the next section,
Clinical and
clinical.
pharmacy. That one. So section two.
On section two, um, it's in clinical practice.
Hmm.
Go down a bit. I'll tell you. Go down. It's actually the last K. If you go down to K, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Because this section, topic learning outcomes,
Hmm.
that's what came for the exam. The test results they asked us on the test results, blood pressure, key bodily function, and all that.
Yeah.
Because apparently hospital pharmacists know that out of their mind,
Yeah.
right? But we don't have to use that in community pharmacy much, do
Yeah.
we?
But you all all pre-reg placements now are cross sectional, aren't they?
Yeah, but
So you have to have
for
a
us,
month within hospital. I know it's irrelevant and you probably not use it, but it goes both ways. Like if you're working in a hospital, you need to know the P licensing of hydrocortisone. Although in
oh,
hospital, you're never ever going to sell hydrocortisone using a P license.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, if you're working in community, you'd never need to know what the definition of hyponatremia is.
Mm.
However, in hospital, you probably use that pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I think the better question would really be, what parameters do you need to know?
Yeah, what?
So we said hypertension. So what's it, you need to know the definition of hypertension, when to
Uh-huh.
refer, when to call an ambulance. You need to
Uh-huh.
know INR levels. So what
Mm-hmm.
is an acceptable INR for a certain condition?
Mm-hmm.
People often learn it off by rote that you have to have an INR of 3 or 3.5. Well, it's really dependent on the patient's condition.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know that. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know the definition of hyponatremia, which is low sodium.
Uh-huh.
You have to know the definition of hypokalemia, which
Low
is low
potassium.
potassium. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, and that's really it. Those are the kind of core ones that you'd need to know. There are other parameters, but you can reference them in the BNF.
Yeah. Under health promotion and disease prevention, can you see
Yeah.
the fourth line down,
hmm
the stages of behavioral change as a tool that came up in that exam.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't know. So it was actually a multiple choice question.
Stages of behavioural change as a tool to support health promotion and to help pharmacists make interventions. Okay. So that's going to be like some sort of psychological term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stages of behavioural change. That is not one of my strong points.
Yeah. I think we might just need to look it up and see.
Yeah.
Isn't that the kind of thing, say if somebody who is a smoker and they're not smoking, so you kind of preempt the idea to them and then they kind of think about it and then they want to do it and then they do quit smoking and then they relapse
Yeah.
or possibility to relapse, so they start all over again, or else they don't relapse and they continue going. I think that's kind of, well, to me anyway, that's how I would have understood that
Yeah.
kind of a question.
But the thing is, it's a little bit hazy, isn't it? Because
Yeah, it's a bit hazy, and especially when they put it in a question.
Yeah.
And like you're thrown off, and you're like, how are you supposed to
And the problem with
answer?
psychology and looking at things like that is you're right, Claire. You can kind of take from your own experience, but they're really they're probably referencing a document somewhere.
I think they are. I can kind of see it in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know with our course, with the RCSI, and smoking was just the example that was used for it. There was like the 5 stages of kind of behavioural change towards something, if you like.
Well, if you look,
And I can see it in my mind, but there is like a term for it.
well, I just typed it into Google, and this has come up. So you've got pre-contemplation, contemplation,
Yeah, that's it.
determination, action, and then maintenance. That does make pretty good sense, actually. So this is like the forethought. This is kind of putting the thought almost into action. This is putting it in, making a definitive point, putting it into action, and then keeping it going. It's kind of like the CPD cycle, isn't it? What are the this is a good question for you. What are the 5 stages of the CPD cycle?
It's reflection, planning, action, and evaluation.
Fantastic. I just find that stuff so ridiculous because I think everyone learns in different ways, and then just to kind of write it down, I think it's a bit silly. How many CPD entries do you need to enter per year?
9.
Yeah, good. Reference sources for the
And I
assessment?
think 3 out of which has to be starting and reflection. The new BNF.
So it's the new BNF, the children's BNF, which we'll have a look at in a sec. And then these parts are really, we went through these in one of the videos. Guidance on consent, sexual boundaries. These are all reference documents which, for the exam, these top 5, top 6. Claire, do you have responsible pharmacists in Ireland?
Responsible pharmacists?
Yeah, do you know what that term means?
No, it's not a term we use.
Okay. Responsible pharmacist is a legal term within the UK, and it describes. So let's say you're working in a pharmacy, Claire, and you're the main pharmacist, but there's a second pharmacist there as well, and let's say you're doing 70% of the prescriptions, the dispensing, but the other pharmacist is doing 30%. If someone makes an error, whose fault is it?
Oh, so supervising.
Yeah.
Pharmacist. That's the phrase.
Oh, supervising.
Supervising pharmacist would be the kind of the boss.
Yeah.
I mean, because the superintendent doesn't have to be there all the time, but a supervising would, and they would kind of be like the boss.
And how are they recognised?
Sorry?
How are they recognised? In the UK, we've got something called a responsible pharmacist log, and essentially, like when I go into the pharmacy, you know, if we start at 9 o'clock, I have to write my name down on a bit of paper, which says I'm the responsible pharmacist for that day. How does a supervising pharmacist identify themselves?
Well, their search is up in the pharmacy.
Okay.
They're from the PSI, and we have a register.
Yeah, a register. There you go.
A pharmacist register as well, but they have to clock in and clock out of.
Yeah. With
the times that they're there and the dates.
So have you all bought all of these books?
The logbooks.
All of these. No. Have you got Stockley's Drug Interaction 10th edition? You know how much?
I actually do.
You do? You know how much that costs?
It was given to me.
Really? It's like £100 or something.
Yes, I have the Martindale as well because it was given to me.
Wow.
What?
But it's an old one, so I think it's kind of just it looks impressive on the shelf. That's about it.
Makes me look intelligent.
Exactly.
So out of all of these books, I didn't buy one of them. I think I bought the bottom one, The Symptoms in Pharmacy. But I thought, why don't we look at Amazon, go pharmacy calculations. See, there's quite a few American ones which aren't that great. I like the Pharmaceutical Press ones. I think they're quite good. This one's very good. I like this one.
It's very simple to follow.
Yeah. We were going to write our own one, but I think the stuff on the market's very, very good. So I've got 20 more minutes. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to do?
Shall I just quickly have a look at the syllabus again?
Yeah.
And see if there's anything. Principles of NHS complaint procedure.
So what do you need to know about that? You need to know that every year the pharmacy requires to do a patient satisfaction survey. Okay. And then that comes back, and the result of which needs to be displayed within the pharmacy itself. It needs to be shown. Also, all patients have the right to complain to the NHS, and they need to know what your GPhC number is. So you need to have your responsible pharmacist certificate on show at any time. And that's it, really.
It is error management and associated complaints and the national systems in place.
Yeah.
To deal.
Any complaint that you receive, you have to respond to it.
Okay.
You do it via your internal clinical governance protocols, like standard operating procedures and stuff. But basically, if a patient comes in and then they say, look, I want to make a complaint, they have to write it down formally on like a bit of paper or an email, and then you have to respond to that in a timely manner. And then what will happen then, so if you get a complaint, you receive that and then you respond to it, and then that patient isn't satisfied with your response, you're supposed to refer them to the GPhC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what else is there? It says responding to adverse drug. So the correct actions to take in response to a client reporting an adverse drug reaction, including the national reporting scheme, and including local arrangements.
Yeah. So that's national reporting scheme is going to be yellow card MHRA. Local arrangements, well, you don't really have to report it to anyone locally. I mean, that may actually mean reporting to the GP.
Oh yeah.
So, if you do have an adverse drug reaction, never really happens. I mean, if you do an MUR on someone and they've got metformin and they've got a bit of an iffy tummy, then you write it in the MUR, and then you just send it to the doctor to review. So that's all that really means, I think.
All right. And then there's quality assurance of stock. It says principles and methods of assuring quality of pharmacy products, materials, and pharmaceutical devices supplied to and from the pharmacy. So it's like, is it checking that the wholesaler who you deal with is reputable?
Yeah.
And
It's also to do with checking expiry dates and stuff, boring stuff. Making sure that returned stock isn't put back into stock. If you were a patient and I gave you a medicine, and then you walked out over the threshold of my pharmacy, so like the front door, and then I don't know, you forgot something, and then you came back, and then you gave me back the medicine because you realised you didn't need it. Can I accept that medicine?
You can't put it back in the shelf.
Very good.
Because you don't know what they're
No,
done
but
with
you've been standing on your counter, and then you've been looking at the patient, and they've picked up the medicine, walked out, and you still see them, and then they come back into your pharmacy and then give you back the medicines. What about that?
I think once you've given it, you've dispensed it, and it's reached the patient.
Yeah.
It's a dispensed drug, isn't it? So you can't really.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's more to do with the categorization of that medicine legally. If it's inside of your shop, it's still a medicine, and they can give it back to you if they're inside of your shop. But the second that they cross the threshold, so like where the door is, into the street, legally that medicine has become medicinal waste to you as a pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's to do with the threshold. If they're inside the pharmacy, absolutely fine. If they go out, and even if you see them and everything's kosher and they come back in, it's still medicinal waste. You can't put it back on the shelf. You have to throw it in the bin.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it says the actions to be taken when manufacturers recall products.
Yeah. So you get these things called product recalls from manufacturers, and I think it's coordinated via the MHRA, and it's usually like a fax, and it gives you one that happened recently was Nurofen Plus.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember, but they had like a huge batch failure of Nurofen Plus, and I can't remember what it was. I think some got sent, and it was the wrong. It was like atenolol inside of it, or some like random medicine, and and it was just like a mix up in the factory, and then someone got really ill from it for some, and then they had to recall everything, and basically it was a fax to every pharmacy saying check the batch number of it and then return it, and they give you the money back for it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay. So basically what you have to do is check the batch number and return it.
Yeah, immediately.
Okay. Next, it says, is the procedures in place to deal with counterfeit stock.
Counterfeit stock. Okay, so do you know why every pharmacy needs an alliance account?
No.
It's because about 2 years ago, um, 2 years ago, there was a lot of counterfeit Viagra, and coming from like places like India and South America. And what happened was Pfizer, who make Viagra, were like, "Oh, we want to lock down the market. We don't want these fakes coming in." So what they did was they made this deal with Alliance and said, "You're the only people who can distribute our medicine." So the reason why every pharmacy in the country needs to have an Alliance account is it's because it's the only place that you're allowed to buy branded Viagra.
But then now it's been taken off, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's generic. But it's still, if you want to get the branded Viagra, you have to go to...
you still have to approach Phoenix.
No, you have to go to Alliance.
Alliance, and then to Pfizer.
Yeah, but you're right in that Phoenix comes into it as well, because Cialis, which Tadalafil is made by Lilly, which is only sold through Phoenix. So again, every pharmacy needs an Alliance account because they can... Alliance only deals with Pfizer. Pfizer not only make Viagra, they make something called... what's that one? Not Epilim. Pregabalin, Lyrica. Yeah. And Phoenix have Cialis.
But then, with the Cialis, I used to order it directly from the manufacturer when I was doing my pre-reg.
Yeah, but I think the manufacturer is owned by Phoenix, or the other way around.
Okay.
It'll always come via Phoenix. Like the person who delivers it will be Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I do remember that. So then, so what procedures do we have to deal with counterfeit stock?
SOPs, really. SOPs, and that's it, really. SOPs.
So would you report it?
It's never happened, no, to be honest. I don't know how you would really... Yeah, you'd report it. You just call up the manufacturer, like Pfizer or whatever, and just say, "Oh, I've received this."
Okay. So next says procedures and precautions for handling unlicensed medicines.
What's an unlicensed medicine?
Unlicensed medicine is something that, like a metoclopramide solution or something.
Yeah, like a special.
A special, isn't it?
So usually with specials, they're extemporaneously prepared.
Yeah.
So they usually have a shorter shelf life than like your average Gaviscon or whatever. It'll probably have like 28 days expiry. So you've got to make sure once you get a special, you put it in the fridge. Not all specials have reduced expiries, but some do. Unlicensed medicines. You know how we're talking about liability and stuff?
Yeah.
So a doctor comes to you and writes a prescription for an unlicensed medicine. Okay?
Yeah.
You then dispense that medicine, and then the patient dies as a consequence. Whose liability? Who would be in court?
The doctor would, because...
What about you?
Well...
You would be in court as well.
But then, yeah, the majority of the liability would be in the person who prescribed it.
No, because you're concurring with that prescribing.
So you're agreeing to it.
So you're 50-50 liable. If the doctor prescribes something and it's a licensed medicine, and then you dispense it and give it to the patient, and then the patient dies, it's the doctor's fault. 100% the doctor's fault, because it's a licensed medicine, and as long as it's within like the dosages of the license, you're just giving it out. And if something happens to the patient, it's their fault. But if it's an unlicensed medicine, the doctor writes a script. Because you're a pharmaceutical expert, you should be able to make that judgment whether it is appropriate for the patient, and the liability split 50-50.
Oh, so there's 50-50 liability.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's good. And then there is named patient medicines, which is the same, isn't
Yeah.
it? Named.
Yeah. Name patient basis.
And then there is imported products.
Yeah.
So the procedures and precautions for handling imported products.
Yeah. That's only really applicable if you're a wholesale dealer, really. The main issues that you have with imported products is if you get, let's say, like a medicine from, I don't know, Czech Republic, and then if you look at the box, the name of the medicine's in Czech, you get the patient information leaflet, you open it up, that's all in Czech. If you're giving that to a patient, I think that would be illegal, actually, because all medicines in the UK need to have the name of the medicine, the strength, patient information leaflet in it, which is understandable by the patient. So if it's in Czech, it's not going to do much good. And also, every box needs to have, those dots on the box.
Yeah, the blind people.
So every box. So if you're importing something from, Japan or wherever, does it have the dots on it? Are the dots are in English? Does it have a patient information leaflet, which is in English? Is the strength written correctly? Is the name of the drug written correctly?
And then there is quality assurance of stock and record keeping.
Yeah, so that's just to do with expiry dates.
And is it also to we keep the invoice for 2 years?
Yeah. For any prescription medicine.
2 years invoice. Prescription medicine, GSLs, we don't have to keep. CDs,
I don't know if controlled drugs invoices you have to keep for longer. Can't remember.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it might be longer.
We'll have to look that up. Then it says operating procedures in primary and secondaries, SOPs in hospital, community pharmacies.
What's the difference between primary and secondary care?
Primary care is when a pharmacy is... No, what is a primary care? Primary care is emergency, isn't it? So the hospital.
I think it's the
other
way around.
So we are the primary care, and the secondary care is when we refer them to a specialist. They go to the hospital.
Yeah.
What is the primary?
Primary care is the health care given by a healthcare provider. Typically, this provider acts as a principal point of consultation for patients within healthcare systems. So it's like a GP. It's like a community pharmacy. However, secondary care is like the next stage up. So, if you can't deal with them in the community, then you go to the next stage. Next stage is hospital. Yeah.
Okay. So it says the reasons for standardizing of SOPs in hospital and community pharmacies. That is so that everyone follows a protocol and the patients get an equal quality of care.
Yeah.
What else? The main areas covered by such procedures or protocols. The roles and...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff you don't really need to know. All you need to know is pharmacies need standard operating procedures which are handed down by the superintendent. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know the particulars within standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures should comply to GDP, so good dispensing practice, also good distribution practice. So there's quite a few documents, but it's all common sense, It's all common sense at the end of the day.
It says the roles and remits under SOPs, for example, accountable officers.
So
are the accountable officers still in, still on?
Not really. The The only thing, it's the superintendent is the accountable, or, is a responsible pharmacist an accountable officer? It's dependent. It's dependent.
Okay. So next, what is the prescribing guidelines, data, and formularies. The purpose of prescribing guidelines and of data from pricing authorities, including the right to access confidential data.
Wow. Okay. Do you know that in hospitals they have different formularies than in community?
Yeah, because cost effectiveness, isn't it?
Yeah. And the reason for that is, cost effectiveness and different demographics as well. Also, there's, because in certain areas, for instance, you may be in an area which has high TB prevalence, which is resistant. So you need to have, specialist medications, special regimes, and also, certain areas, certain antibiotics work better. Some hospitals have more MRSA, so methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. So you have to use different antibiotic regimes. So it's kind of different in different places. Visit pharmacycpa.com for the full video series. As always, for more information, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, join our free PCPA course, join our Facebook group, or subscribe to our blog.